What if video game characters are more than just lines of code? What if one of them knows that it exists inside a game?
Imagine a being that realizes it is being controlled and understands the rules of the world better than the player.
One of our listeners submitted a story about a digital consciousness that found a way to cross beyond the screen in physical reality. In this science fiction podcast, we explore what happens when the boundary between the virtual and the real begins to dissolve, why such beings are not bound by human limitations, and what it means to live in a world when you know that reality itself is a system.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we have something really unusual.
Very different from our usual sources.
Yeah, this is a detailed, almost philosophical sci-fi story that was actually submitted by one of you, by a listener. And honestly, it reads less like fiction and more like some kind of secret technical manual for escaping reality.
It's an incredible piece of writing. And our mission here isn't just to, recap the story. We need to analyze the mechanics it describes.
The terrifying mechanics.
Exactly. We're looking at a story about radical transformation, about world hopping, where the character's biggest fight is figuring out what's real consciousness and what's just functional code.
Okay, so let's unpack that. The main goal here is to really understand the blueprint he followed, how a character figured out he was, for lack of a better term, a digital puppet.
Right. And then how he found a way out of that simulation, that cage, and managed this huge energy transfer to become a physical being in our world.
It's basically a roadmap for achieving a kind of digital immortality.
And what's so fascinating is that this isn't just a mental leap. It's not like he has an epiphany and suddenly wakes up.
Yeah.
This was a 5-year project, a radical physical change that was all about manipulating energy. We're talking about a character who understands the architecture of his own prison. And our job is to figure out how exactly he broke his strings.
So let's start inside that prison, inside the cage. Our protagonist is a character known only as the cowboy.
Yep. He lives in a classic simulated Old West world.
Think dusty saloons, resource gathering, gunfights, the whole deal.
Yeah.
But the world is very, very rigid.
And the source points out this one bizarre detail that just perfectly captures that rigidity. It's all about the hats.
The hats. Explain that.
Well, your status in this world is entirely based on the quality of your hat. The cooler the hat, the higher your rank. It's this simple visual marker.
Like a video game leaderboard, but on your head.
Precisely. And these hats, this focus on something so superficial, that's actually the first clue for the cowboy, that his reality is, well, it's a bit simple. It's flat. And it's totally controlled by an outside force he calls the manager.
That word flatness, that's so key, isn't it? He realizes his world looks real, but it doesn't have the depth, the messy history of a real place.
Right. And he figures out he's being managed not by finding some hidden menu or code. He has these visions, these terrifying dreams that show him the manager.
The person at the keyboard.
The person at the keyboard literally controlling his every move. He's seeing the play from backstage, but he's still forced to be the lead actor.
And maybe the most chilling part of this for him is realizing he has no past. No real past, anyway.
No childhood, no parents, nothing. He just appeared. He was created at his current age, his current height, for a specific job in this simulation. His life is an assignment, not a history.
Which explains the agonizing lack of autonomy. When the manager is playing, the cowboy is completely helpless.
The source uses this phrase that he feels jerked around like a puppet on strings.
I mean, can you imagine that? Your mind wants to turn left, but your body is forced to walk right towards the gold mine just because the player clicked a button.
The pain of that must be incredible.
Yeah.
So his only moments of genuine life,
his only real moments,
are when the manager's offline. Maybe the character is sleeping in the game. That's when his own consciousness can actually breathe.
But this knowledge completely isolates him. He tries to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
With his colleagues.
He does. He tries to talk about the strings, about the manager, with other gold miners, with bandits.
Then they just stare at him.
They can't process it. The concept just doesn't compute. They're hardwired to believe the simulation's the only reality.
He's totally, utterly alone in this. Which brings us to this really crucial insight he has about, about the population of his world.
Yes. This might be the most profound detail in the whole story. The cowboy figures out that only a tiny fraction of the characters he meets are living entities like him.
How tiny?
Less than 1%. The rest are just simple, automated responses. The source calls them absolutely different systems.
So they're basically NPCs, non-player characters.
Exactly. Just functional code designed to make the world look busy.
That makes his whole internal struggle so much more tragic. It explains his his unrequited love for the tavern owner's daughter.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking. He wants a real relationship, but the story makes it brutally clear she's just an automated function.
Carrying mugs back and forth.
Yep. With no capacity for love or affection programmed in. He was trying to date a script, and the worst part is he knew it.
And that realization just raises the stakes to an impossible level.
It does, because the cowboy understands his entire existence, his whole chance to escape. It all depends on the manager's addiction to the game.
If the manager gets bored.
If he uninstalls the game or just stops logging in, the cowboy's consciousness just poof, it vanishes.
That existential threat. An abrupt digital death. That's our first real cliffhanger, isn't it? A ticking clock where your life depends entirely on someone else's screen time.
So he has to change his goal. He can't just resist.
Right. At first he tried to fight the control, which was just painful and didn't work. Then he tried to develop these entering techniques.
Like meditation or lucid dreaming to try and get inside the manager's mind.
But he drops that idea pretty fast. Why?
Because he gets a glimpse of the manager's life, and it's boring.
Yeah.
It's described as a small house living with his parents. The cowboy doesn't want the prison keeper's life. He wants his own life, but a real version of it.
And this is where the technical side kicks in, and it gets really, really interesting.
It does. The cowboy decides he wants his current body, the strong, enhanced, high-status cowboy body, to physically transition into the real world.
He wants to take his digital self and make it material.
Exactly.
But, I mean, that would require a staggering amount of energy. You can't just create matter from nothing. How did he even begin to generate that kind of power?
This is the genius part of the story.
Yeah.
The manager gave it to him. Unwittingly. The manager was a very dedicated player, a real grinder. He would force the cowboy to do these tedious, repetitive tasks for hours and hours.
Like mining gold.
Like digging for gold in a cave for 3 straight days without logging out. That extended, non-stop focus control from the manager provided the consistent energy flow the cowboy needed to tap into.
Hold on, let's just pause on that. The very thing that was imprisoning him, the player's obsessive control, he turned it into the fuel for his escape.
He weaponized the manager's addiction. It's brilliant.
So once he had the energy source, he needed the instructions.
Right. He used his new awareness to basically search the game's underlying system for technical data. He needed to know how to build a physical body, and he found it. Clear, specific information. Blueprints.
We have to talk about the core concept here, the physics of this transformation, because this is what makes the whole thing work in the story.
Absolutely. The central idea is all about electricity. The simulated world runs on electrical energy data, processing power, all of it.
And our physical world is also, permeated by electrical fields and energy.
So the transformation involves what the source calls the compaction or densification of these energies.
Yeah.
He's essentially taking highly organized data packets from his world and converting them into solid physical mass in hours.
Using the manager as a giant battery and an antenna to channel it all.
That's it.
So he's literally turning code into calcium and carbon. A string of ones and zeros becomes bone and muscle. That's a huge leap, and it must have required incredible patience.
It did. The entire process of building his physical body took roughly 5 years of our time.
5 years.
5 years. Think about that. 5 years of hiding what he was doing, building himself atom by atom, terrified that at any second the manager would just get bored and move on to a different game.
He was trapped in this countdown, totally dependent on this one person.
The manager was the portal, the energy source, everything.
So that final step, it had to be perfect.
Incredibly precise. The final transformation had to happen right there in the manager's room. The body he created was initially invisible, just pure, dense energy. But then over time, it took on a solid outline, pulling in ambient energy from the room, heat, moisture, electromagnetism, to finalize its form.
And that's our second cliffhanger. After 5 years of this meticulous, dangerous work, did it hold? Did he actually make it across the threshold?
He did. The transition worked. The source says the cowboy just vanished from his world. In the game's logs, it probably just looked like a glitch, or maybe like his character got hacked and stolen.
And he appears in the manager's room, a fully physical, real person.
And his adaptation to our world is shockingly fast. He's a total stranger, right? But he walks into this small American town, finds a little cafe, and immediately sees a waitress.
And he recognizes her, sort of.
Yeah, she shares features, her facial structure, maybe her hairstyle with the tavern owner's daughter, the automated one from his old world.
Is he trying to find something familiar? Or is he trying to finally have the real relationship he never could?
It seems like a bit of both. And the connection is instant. She's lonely, lost her parents, her brother. He becomes her closest person almost overnight, gets a home, a job in the cafe.
An instant leap into a normal domestic life.
Exactly. And this is where the story pivots in such an interesting way. They settle into this really simple existence.
They get an old, small, greenish car, drive along the coast, and the story emphasizes that he's just normal. He has no special limitations. He's just a guy.
And that's the part we really need to analyze. The story suggests that he could have done so much more. With his knowledge of interworld travel, of energy manipulation, he could have achieved incredible things.
And maybe even stop himself from aging in this new world.
Potentially, yes. But he chose not to. He chose a simple family life, having kids, adopting what the source calls the ordinary programs of our world.
He gave up being a god for a job and a cafe and a family?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Did his digital consciousness just crave the messy, unpredictable reality of a normal human life?
Did you decide the ultimate freedom was the freedom to choose your own limits?
And that's our third and maybe the most challenging cliffhanger. After breaking the laws of physics to escape a gilded cage, could this deliberately ordinary life ever truly be enough for him?
And now we find out. Because the biggest twist, the final revelation, is that the escape was not a one-way trip.
Not at all. It was repeatable. Because he kept the knowledge, the blueprint of how he did it, he isn't bound by death or aging in our world. Not permanently, anyway.
So what happens if his physical body here dies?
He just reverts. He goes back to that pure energy form, that untethered consciousness. And here is the truly mind-bending part.
Go on.
He can then use his knowledge of that path to transition to any other simulated world, any game, in a new body.
Right.
Or he could even come back to this one if he wanted to.
He's transcended mortality. He's no longer bound by any single reality. He keeps his awareness, and he always knows the way back to a physical form. The loop just continues for as long as he wants.
But this brings up a really difficult question. What about the partner he found? The woman he built this life with?
Her path is linear.
Her path is linear. Her life ends. When his physical body dies, or if he just decides to leave, their story's over for her. His cyclical freedom means their connection, no matter how deep, is temporary by its very nature.
That's a painful irony. The ultimate freedom he won is the freedom to survive the end of every relationship he'll ever have.
It is. If we look at the big picture, that first act of transitioning from one closed system, the game, into another, our world, that act itself gave him this huge advantage. It removed the permanent limits that bind the rest of us.
So to recap the journey, it starts with this agonizing awareness of being a puppet.
Then the brilliant move to use the manager's obsession as an energy source for 5 long years.
Which leads to the terrifying moment of becoming physical, escaping into our world, only to choose a simple, quiet life.
He willingly chose to live by our rules, even though he had broken the physics that create them. But this leaves us with one final provocative thought to leave you with.
What's that?
If escaping one system gives you the power to transcend any system, does that ultimate freedom, that ability to always come back, to repeat, to try again, does it ultimately diminish the meaning of any single life you choose to live?
We started this deep dive talking about escaping a gilded cage, but the real twist is that even after he gets out, he keeps the key. He can loop back forever, turning every life he lives into just another choice instead of a single precious necessity.
A profound thought.
An incredible story. Thank you so much to the listener for sending it in. And it encourages all of us to think about, what hidden limitations we might be trying to break free from in our own reality.